The year is 378 AD. The sun hangs low and merciless over the plains of Adrianople. A Roman army, the finest fighting force the ancient world has ever known, stands in formation, shields locked, eyes forward. They have been marching for hours under blistering heat. They are thirsty, they are exhausted, and they are outnumbered. Their commander, the Emperor Valens himself, watches the horizon with narrowed eyes. He has been told wrong, because beyond that dust cloud, tens of thousands of Gothic horsemen are already moving. What happens in the next few hours will not simply be a military defeat, it will be the beginning of the end. To understand why Adrianople matters, you have to go back, far back, to a time when Rome was nothing, a small cluster of mud brick buildings on the banks of the Tiber River. The earliest Roman army was a reflection of the city itself, small, disorganized, modeled loosely on Greek hoplite tactics. It relied on a phalanx formation. The Gauls sacked the city itself in 390 BC, a humiliation so searing it would haunt Roman memory for generations. They remembered the sound of the Gauls laughing as they walked through the gates. Rome just burned. Its army failed. Everything they built was almost erased. But this story is only beginning, and so is this channel. If you want to follow every chapter of how Rome clawed its way back from the ashes, hit subscribe right now so you never miss an episode. That is perhaps Rome's most underappreciated quality, not raw power, but the extraordinary ability to absorb a defeat and rebuild stronger. Rome's military underwent a fundamental transformation. Generals and tribunes began to discard the rigid phalanx in favor of something far more flexible, the manipular system. The Roman manipular army was the opposite. It was adaptive. Damage one part and the rest could compensate, flow around the problem, keep pushing forward. The youngest and most aggressive men, the hastati, formed the first line. Behind them stood the principes, and behind them the triarii, older men who would only advance as a last resort. To be a Roman soldier was to be something more than a farmer or a tradesman. The army gave men belonging, it gave them pride, it gave them purpose. The Punic Wars against Carthage are among the most dramatic conflicts in ancient history, 3 wars spanning more than a century. When they captured a Carthaginian warship that had washed ashore, they reverse-engineered it. Their engineers invented the corvus, a spiked boarding bridge. At Lake Trasimene in 217 BC, he concealed his entire force in the hills around a lake road and massacred a Roman army of 30,000 men in a matter of hours. And then came Cannae, August 2nd, 216 BC. A Roman army of roughly 86,000 men, the largest force Rome had ever put into the field. He deployed his weakest infantry at the center, deliberately bowed forward toward the Romans. His best troops, the African veterans, he placed on the wings. The trap closed. 86,000 men were encircled. Somewhere between 50,000 and 70,000 Romans were killed, unable even to raise their arms to defend themselves. When Hannibal's envoy arrived in Rome with terms, the Senate famously refused to even receive him. They would fight. They would keep fighting. 86,000 men, encircled, destroyed, and Rome still refused to surrender. If this kind of history moves you, if you felt the weight of that Senate vote in your chest, take 1 second right now and drop a like on this video. It costs you nothing, and it helps us keep telling stories like this one. Eventually, a young general named Publius Cornelius Scipio took the war to Africa itself. At the Battle of Zama in 202 BC, Scipio defeated Hannibal. The legions that marched out of the Second Punic War were not the same legions that had walked into it. They were battle-forged, tactically sophisticated, and psychologically unlike any other fighting force on Earth. In 107 BC, Marius made a decision that would reshape Roman history. He opened the legions to the caput sensi, the head count, men who owned little or nothing. The bond between a Roman general and his men became intensely personal. The new legions were professionals fighting for Rome, and crucially, for their generals. He organized the legion entirely into cohorts, 10 cohorts per legion, each cohort containing 6 centuries of roughly 80 men. If you want to understand why Rome conquered the world, understand the centurion. He was not an officer in the aristocratic sense. He was a professional soldier, promoted on merit. He led from the front, always. The most dangerous position in a Roman formation was at the right end of the front line. That was where the centurion stood. Marius also gave each legion a permanent eagle standard, the Aquila. To lose the eagle in battle was the worst disgrace imaginable. The Marian legion could march 20 miles a day in full kit, build a fortified camp every single night, complete with ditches, ramparts, and palisade walls. The Roman soldier was, in effect, also an engineer. The army carried with it a self-contained civilization: smiths, surgeons, architects, siege engineers. Julius Caesar. No figure in Roman history used the legions more brilliantly, more ruthlessly, or more personally than Caesar. In Gaul, Caesar's engineers built a bridge across the Rhine in 10 days. The bridge was built to demonstrate to the Gauls watching from both banks that Rome could do the impossible. The siege of Alesia in 52 BC stands as perhaps the single greatest feat of Roman military engineering. When the Gallic relief army attacked from outside and the besieged Gauls attacked from inside, Caesar's legions held. They fought for days on multiple fronts simultaneously. Vercingetorix surrendered. The Gallic Wars added an enormous swath of territory to Rome's dominion. Caesar just pulled off one of the most extraordinary military feats in human history. We're halfway through the story, and the best and worst is still to come. Before we go further, drop a comment below. Which Roman general do you think was the greatest of all time? Caesar? Scipio? Someone else? We read every comment, and the debate is always worth having. When Augustus Caesar emerged from the ashes of the Republic's civil wars to become Rome's first emperor, he inherited both the greatest military machine in the ancient world and the urgent need to transform it. Augustus fixed the number of legions at 28, gave each a permanent home base along the frontiers, and created the first true standing army in Roman history. Wherever a legion established its permanent camp, a town grew around it. Many of the great cities of modern Europe began as Roman military camps. Let us walk through it. Let us stand inside the formation. A standard legion of the late Republic and early Empire numbered roughly 5,000 to 6,000 men. The legionary himself carried roughly 40 kilograms of equipment. His lorica segmentata protected his torso and shoulders. His rectangular shield, the scutum, was nearly a meter tall. At approximately 15 meters, just before impact, the Roman line would hurl these javelins in a coordinated volley. The effect was devastating. Rome just built the most sophisticated standing army the ancient world had ever seen. A machine that would hold civilization together for centuries. If you know someone who loves history, ancient warfare, or epic storytelling, share this video with them right now. Great stories deserve a great audience. Roman soldiers were trained relentlessly, trained until it was reflex, trained until it was instinct, to stab. Give them a point, the centurions commanded. The testudo, the tortoise formation, could be assembled in seconds, creating what ancient sources describe as a walking roof. Caesar's Gallic campaigns are a masterclass in Roman military doctrine, speed, engineering, psychological warfare, and the iron bond between general and soldier. Before difficult battles, he would walk among them, calling veterans by name, noting their past service, their wounds, their courage. Under emperors like Trajan, Rome's military ambitions reached their absolute zenith. Trajan's Dacian campaigns added the territory of modern Romania. Trajan's column is the finest visual record we have of the Roman army in action. Every detail of the soldiers' equipment, the construction of fortifications, the crossing of rivers. After Trajan, his successor Hadrian looked at the vastness of the empire and made a different calculation. Consolidate, fortify, build walls, stop expanding, and start enduring. The legions were a large part of why that peace was possible. The sight of Roman soldiers on the roads, Roman warships in the harbors, Roman fortifications on every frontier. The first and most fundamental was a political problem that Augustus had never fully solved: the question of succession. There was no clear, legally binding mechanism for choosing a new emperor. In 69 AD, the year of the four emperors, 4 men claimed the purple in the course of a single chaotic year. Legions fought legions. Marcus Aurelius spent much of his reign standing on the Danube frontier, directing grinding wars against Marcomanni and other Germanic peoples pressing south. Septimius Severus raised 3 new legions, increased soldiers' pay, allowed soldiers to legally marry and live with their families outside the fort walls. The crisis of the 3rd century, from 235 to 284 AD. In the space of 50 years, more than 50 men claimed the title of emperor. Most of them died violently. The Sassanid Persians launched devastating invasions that captured the Emperor Valerian in 260 AD, the first Roman emperor ever taken prisoner by an enemy. Rome needed to be able to rush forces rapidly from one threatened section to another. This required a new kind of army, the comitatant seas, mobile field armies under direct imperial command. Diocletian doubled the size of the army, from roughly 300,000 men to perhaps 600,000, and divided the empire into an eastern and western half, the Tetrarchy. An army twice as large requires twice the resources. The tax burden on the empire's citizens grew crushing. Rome had always incorporated non-Romans into its military structure. The auxilia units had been filled with Gauls, Spaniards, Syrians, North Africans. Entire units, the foederati, allied barbarian forces fighting under their own commanders and their own standards, served alongside the legions. Their loyalty was contractual rather than cultural. Stilicho, who served as the effective military commander of the Western Empire under Honorius, was half Vandal by birth, completely Roman by identity, and fought brilliantly to hold together an empire increasingly suspicious of men exactly like him. Stilicho was eventually executed on suspicion of plotting with the barbarians, leaving the Western Empire without its most capable defender at precisely the moment it needed him most. We return now to that field at Adrianople, August 9th, 378 AD. Volans had made his fatal mistake in the morning. Fritigern used that window to open negotiations, stalling for time while his horsemen raced back to the battle. Valens declined to wait. The Gothic cavalry returned at a thundering gallop and hit the Roman right wing. It collapsed. The Roman formations were still deploying, still trying to form up properly. Adrianople just broke something that 5 centuries of war could not. But the story isn't over. In the next section, we follow Rome's final desperate fight for survival. The last great general, the last alliance, and the quiet, almost invisible moment the Western Empire simply ceased to exist. Stay with us. The ending is unlike anything else in ancient history. A horrible echo of Cannae, 6 centuries earlier, replayed now. The Roman army in exactly the wrong position at exactly the wrong moment. Valens himself died in the confusion. His body was never recovered. 2/3 of the Eastern Roman army were killed. Adrianople was not, by itself, the cause of Rome's fall. But it was the moment that crystallized what had been gradually becoming true. The Roman army could no longer reliably defeat a major barbarian force in open battle. Aetius, sometimes called the last of the Romans, assembled a coalition to face Attila the Hun and his vast horde at the Catalonian plains in 451 AD. Aetius, the general, was murdered by a paranoid emperor who feared his general's power. Valentinian III killed Aetius with his own hands in 454 AD. In 455 AD, the Vandals sacked Rome. The Vandal sack lasted 2 weeks and stripped the city of treasures that had accumulated for centuries. The soldier who watched over what was left of Rome in these years was a different creature from the legionary of Caesar's day. His armor was often simpler, lighter. His training was less systematic. The institutional memory had been attenuating for a long time. And once institutional memory is lost, it is extraordinarily difficult to recover. On September 4th, 476 AD, a barbarian general named Odoacer deposed the last Western emperor, a boy named Romulus Augustulus, and sent the imperial regalia to Constantinople. The legions did not march into legend on a single terrible day. They faded. Units were disbanded, not replaced. Forts were abandoned to local communities. What the Roman legions achieved across their 5 centuries at the height of their power remains almost incomprehensible in its scope. They conquered and held territory stretching from Mesopotamia to Scotland. The Vandals just stripped Rome of everything it had accumulated over 1,000 years. 2 weeks. That's all it took to erase centuries of glory. If you want to go even deeper into the battles, generals, and empires of the ancient world, check out our full Ancient Warfare playlist. The link is on screen right now. Every video in that series will hit differently after watching this one. They built a network of roads that covered more than 80,000 kilometers. They raised cities in the desert and carved harbors out of rocky coastlines. Think about the men, born in Gaul or Spain or Syria or Egypt, who stood watch on Hadrian's Wall on a cold northern night, writing letters home that archaeologists have found preserved in the mud at Vindolanda. They were people who built something extraordinary and held it together through discipline and sacrifice and the deep human need to belong to something larger than oneself. The Roman army was changing, almost imperceptibly, in its relationship to both warfare and the empire it served. And change in a military system whose greatest strength had always been consistency and discipline was dangerous. Whether it could have survived, and whether different choices at key moments could have changed the outcome, is a question historians will never stop asking. For 5 centuries, the Roman legion was the most powerful organized military force the world had ever seen, built not on brute strength, but on system, training, and accumulated institutional wisdom. When the last Western emperor surrendered his purple and the last legionary eagles were furled, something genuinely irreplaceable was lost. The dust settles over Adrianople, over Cannae, over the Rhine frontier and Hadrian's Wall, and the hills of Judea, and the plains of Mesopotamia. The boots stop marching, the trumpets go silent. Rome is gone, but it never quite disappears. In the roads we still walk, the laws we still recognize, the cities that grew from its camps, the shadow of those legions falls across everything that came after. If Rome's story moved you, if you felt the weight of what was built and what was lost, then this channel has dozens more stories exactly like this one. Subscribe now, hit the notification bell, and if you want to keep going tonight, the next video is on screen right now. Thank you for watching. Rome lasted 5 centuries. Your subscription takes 5 seconds.